Hello, and welcome to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast, where we explore the entrepreneur mindset and the characteristics and traits that lead to success. I'm your host, Janet Fish. Before I tell you about this week's episode, I've got some exciting news to share. Starting with the last episode, number 17, the interviews will also be available via video on YouTube. So for those of you who prefer to see video to audio, you've got that option. Follow the link below to catch the video version of this episode. This week I sat down with Kim Day. Kim started out as a financial planner. She wrote her first book and used it to double her business. Kim helps business owners write their book and use it as a marketing tool to get more clients. If you've ever dreamed of writing a book, or you just realize how powerful publishing a book can be, Kim can show you the way. I hope you enjoy our chat. So Kim, how are you today? It's great to have you on the podcast.
I am amazing. How are you doing, Janet?
I am doing great. So just, I don't know you super well. So tell me a little bit about you. Let me get to know you a little bit better, and certainly let my listeners get to know you a little better.
Awesome. Well, we met, like you mentioned, very recently, and it's always amazing to meet other successful entrepreneurs. So thank you very much for the opportunity to come on play on your podcast. I love doing stuff like this. And a little bit of background about myself is I was a financial advisor actually for over 13 years before I kind of dove into this marketing space, which I'll talk to you a little bit about later. But my background was I was in finance for over 13 years. And then in 2015, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which was kind of what I like to call my TSN turning point of the game, if you will. And as you can imagine, as we're going through a big crisis right now with the coronavirus, a lot of times crises in your life, whether it be an illness, whether it be a job loss, whether it be a divorce, these are things that often get you to look inward and reflect about what you're doing in your life. And quite frankly, when that happened to me, I was reflecting about, to be quite honest, I was like, you're a loser, Kim. Like, what is going on with you? Like, I was having, I know, and I'm saying it when, and I didn't really feel like I'm a loser, but I don't know if anyone can resonate who's listening, but have you ever sat down and reflected in your life and thought, I am not where I wanted to be or where I thought I was going to be at this age? I was 43 years old. I was still struggling financially at 43. About the only thing I had accomplished in my life is I owned my own condo, but I wasn't married. I had no children. And I was just sitting there kind of like going, what have I done with my life? Like, it was really a time, like, if I die from this right now, what will people say about me and the things that I accomplished? And for me, I wasn't happy with what those answers were coming back to me for.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I felt like I had been living on the sidelines of the game of life, if you will. And that was it. I made a decision in that moment that no more was I going to sit on the sideline and play the game small. I was going to get in the game and play it large and go for my dreams and go for all these things that I wanted to do when I talked about doing in my 20s and in my 30s that I just wasn't doing. And so, you know how, if you've ever heard of the expression that everything that happens to you happens for a reason.
Absolutely. Even the bad things.
And that's where I feel like cancer, looking back in hindsight, was the blessing that happened in my life to really kick me in the seat of the pants, if you will.
Yeah.
And get me to start taking some pretty serious action in my life and in my business to be a better person, to have a better life experience, and to do better in my business.
Yeah. I mean, we all have had those, perhaps not as drastic as your kick in the pants, but we've all had those pivot points in our lives. For some people, this is one of those. As they deal with the coronavirus. But I mean, okay, so you're a financial advisor, you get through this, or you're going through this process. Somewhere you turned into an entrepreneur, you started your own business. Tell us a little bit about that part of the journey.
Yeah, that's a funny part of the journey, because even as a financial advisor, I was working largely with independent brokers. So you technically were like a little mini micro entrepreneur. You had a firm above you that would help with some of the things that lots of entrepreneurs have to do with respect to wearing all the hats. So they had marketing materials for you, and they had training that you could go to, and there was stuff that they did with respect to background stuff that would help you, but you were still largely responsible for going out and prospecting and finding new clients.
Yep.
And when I sit down with entrepreneurs now, and even as I was in that environment, I feel like it's a very common point that people make, is that they struggle with lead generation and prospecting and finding new clients. So I was going through this whole, okay, well, I need more clients. Like I've said, I'm going to get to this and grow a big business and be super successful, because this is what I'm now on a mission to do, and help more people be financially free and learn and be financially empowered. So how am I going to go about doing this? And I realized there was somewhere inside of me that it was me that was holding me back. So I went on a journey of personal and professional development as well, kind of alongside of my cancer journey. And I remember going to a 3-day event. It's actually called the Millionaire Mind Intensive. It's kind of like a Tony Robbins program for those people that don't know it. And it's a 3-day program that then leads you into some back-end programming and personal development programming. And I remember going to this event in the fall of 2015, because I was bald. And I was one of those people that I'm like, because I had just gone through my cancer treatment, I didn't love wearing, like, wigs made me all itchy. So I was just like, I was rocking the bald hairdo, and I didn't even care. I probably made some people uncomfortable or nervous, but I was just like, whatever, it's life. And I was fortunate enough that I was like, yeah, I don't look so horrible bald, so I'm just gonna go with it. and off I went to the 3-day networking event. And at the end of the 3-day networking event, they offered a program called Quantum Leap. And it was a very expensive program. Well, expensive for me anyway. So I guess expensive is all relative. But again, I was faced with that decision that, okay, you said you were going to play big, so you just need to do this. And Quantum Leap, like, what a great name. So I was like, that's it. I'm taking the leap. I'm taking the leap into the Quantum Leap. and I did. And I signed up for a $10,000 personal development program, which was a bundle of courses. And then one of the first courses that I went to was called the World's Greatest Marketing Seminar. It was down in LA, which is, I believe, where you are.
I'm in Northern California, but it's okay. California.
California. So I was in LA, in LAX, and I flew in for this 5-day conference called the World's Greatest Marketing Seminar. And it was a platform event with multi-speakers. So there was a speaker that would be like, you need to use video to market your business. You need to use podcasting, like that we're doing right now, for your business. And one of the speakers got up and talked about using a book to grow your business, to position yourself as an expert and an authority in your marketplace, to use it for lead generation, to use it to stand out from in the crowd of everybody else doing the exact same thing as you. And in the financial services sector, it's a very crowded market. It's a very saturated market. And it is a market where people are skeptical because they don't want to open up and share all of that vulnerable information with you.
Right.
So to me, that really resonated. It stood out. And so I jumped on board. I took a program to help me write and publish a book. And 3 months later, my very first book was born.
Yay!
The Financial Fitness Playbook, the ultimate guide to winning the money game. And of course, now that I was on my big mission to like go big and go large, I would plan to write a huge, big series of books. So I started with the ultimate guide to winning the money game, but I was going to write the baby boomers guide to winning the money game, and the millennials guide, and the single parents guide, and the couples guide, and the entrepreneurs guide. I was going to write a big series of books and really niche down into each of these markets that I really wanted to serve. And then I had my second kind of TSN turning point of the game, and my light bulb went off, or I had a V8 moment, or whatever you want to call it. And what I realized is that there was actually a very good reason that I didn't have enough customers in my finance business. And that is because I didn't love teaching finance.
Yeah.
I had my ladder leaned up against the wrong wall, if you will.
It matters. Yeah.
And it matters. And I would go into appointments and I would just come out deflated because people don't, sadly, in today's day and age, people are in the mode of instant gratification a lot. I'm not talking everybody, but in a large part of our population, especially in North America, we're focused on instant gratification. We want to drive the BMW. We want to live in the big shiny house. We're always keeping up with the Joneses. We're going to Starbucks. Some people not just once a day, but 3 times a day. And people just aren't interested in, taking responsibility. And I was disheartened. I was deflated. And I would come home at the end of every day going, oh my God, like I just want to poke my eye out with a sharp stick.
It's very hard to do something day after day that doesn't feed you. And I hear people all the time say, find your passion, and that should be what you should do. And there's a part of that's true. But so I had a woman come to me earlier in my coaching world, and she said to me, she was worked for Yahoo and was in HR. And she was like, I want to go start a business doing, I don't even remember what it was, but it was something not at all remotely. Let's say it was real estate. And I'm like, okay, I have a passion for real estate. Okay, what do you know about it? Nothing. So I think passion has to be there, but it can't be the only thing there, right? So
I agree. I agree. That's a very great statement.
So okay, you're sitting there and you're going, poke myself in the eye with a thing if I have to do this. I've been there. I know exactly how that feels.
Yeah, like another 13 years. I was like, there's no way I can handle another 13 years of this. I would be like leap me off a cliff. So
what I'm hearing is you went out and you personal development, education, and then something came, probably a number of things came into your world, and you said, I'm going to seize on that. And sometimes you can seize on that and that's not it. And then you seize on something else and that's not it. And the third thing is seize on is it. But you knew that wasn't going to be. So you've got this vehicle, whether it cost you $10,000 or $2,000 or $2, you've now got a vehicle. And knowing you, how well I know you in the short amount of time I've known you, it's like, jump in. So talk about that.
I'm a jump in kind of girl. And, I think it's a trait of a lot of entrepreneurs. We jump in sometimes without a paddle in that creek we all know about. Sometimes without the water wings into the ocean. And I love that you mentioned the whole, you can try this and you can try this and you can try this. And it just in entrepreneurship, I believe entrepreneurship is a lot like dating. Sometimes you have to kiss a bunch of frogs before you find your prince.
Agreed.
So I did try a bunch of other things. I actually tried real estate investing, and for a time I was fairly successful at it. At its peak, I had 13 properties, multifamily unit rental income properties, but it wasn't for me. It actually was another business and industry that caused me anxiety, because when the phone rings, it's always a problem.
Yeah,
nobody's calling you excited that the tenant paid twice the rent. Ever.
No, I am a real estate investor, and I have multiple properties, and I know exactly what that's like. So yes,
So again, it was for me after the cancer, which was what I would call my first kind of pivot point, was I need to do something different. I need to go big or go home. But it also, with the other realization with cancer, is that life is very short, and I will never do anything anymore that does not fill my heart with joy and does not make me happy.
Great point.
And I think time is the one resource that you can get back. You can make money over and over and over again. You can lose it over and over and over again, but you cannot get back time. And so for me, the work-life balance, income, time balance, those things are critically important for me. So I make many of my decisions are made based on evaluating that. And of course, you may have heard of the expression, what you focus on expands, sure. Or where focus goes, energy flows. Right. And so now I had clearly identified what I didn't want to be doing. I was like, there's no way I could do this for another 13 years. So what I needed to now shift my attention to was what does the next phase of my journey look like? What do I want to do? Where do I want to focus my attention? Because that was then the next step. And you talked about following your passion, which is, yes, that's one way to look at it. But I think you need to look at your passion, possibly life experiences, what skill sets you have, and then combine those into a business perhaps, because I think it was Tony Robbins that said it, but he suggested, this whole adage of you can be anything you want to be. He's like, it's true to some degree, but he goes, I definitely could not be a jockey. I mean, he's like a 7 foot tall, massive human. So no matter how badly he wants to be a horse jockey, he cannot be a jockey. He just doesn't, there's physically something that is holding him back from doing that. So you need to have a little bit of reality in there, but you definitely want to follow your passions and what makes puts joy into your life. I think that's super important.
Well, so let me just say, I totally agree with that. And we can find, so one thing I would say, I'll use my example of the HR person who wanted to go into real estate. That's it. First of all, we don't really know whether that's her passion because she hadn't done it yet, right? Secondarily, it's a much longer road if you don't have any of those skills. So not that you can't do it, but it's a much longer road. What I'll tell a lot of my clients is take your skill set and then find something that you can do that you have passion for using that skill set. So we love to help people. That's what we do, right? Whether it's I'm a business coach or helping people write books so that they can, marketing, build their business. We're helping people. And that's my passion. My passion isn't necessarily business plans and marketing plans and all that. It's seeing somebody go from I'm making $5,000 a month to I'm making $15,000 a month. Like that's
absolutely.
Right? So, I mean, the passion needs to be there, but sometimes the underlying passion is the result, not the widget in which we use to get that result.
And it's a great that you say that, because it's kind of a good segue into where I can kind of shed some light on what my experience was with respect to sussing that out in my brain, because I feel like a large part of the population, especially if you're looking at making a pivot. So say you're in a corporate job you don't love, and you spend 8 hours a day there. You spend more time there than you do with your own family.
Yep.
And you hate the people, and you hate the cubicle, and you hate the this, and you hate the that, and you hate the commute. Well, then make a decision and change it. You don't have to do it. Go quit your job tomorrow, but start the process of thinking what your better, more happier, more joyful life would look like, and start taking one step at a time towards that.
Yep.
So for me, I was in this personal development community. I'd taken this Quantum Leap program. I loved it so much, Janet, that I was now taking all of the courses again, only this time I was going as a volunteer staff member. And in their world, they call it the Karma Crew. So you go there in service for other students going through all of these transformative processes. And I just said that, and the hair on my arms and my legs just stood up. Like I get the goosebumps when I talk about it. So that cliche of if you could do it for your whole rest of your life and never get paid for it because it brings you so much joy. Like I feel like people think that's a cliche. You need to pay attention to those moments.
Yeah.
These are moments that are teaching you something. And these were my moments. I was like, I can't even tell you how much joy. Like, again, I talk about it and it's like, whoa, it's like electricity through my body, like helping other people through these same transformative processes that I went through while I was going through the courses myself as a student.
Yeah.
And I would just, it lit me up. It filled me with so much love and joy and passion that literally we'd be on like 14 to 16 hour days. We were up before participants because we had to get rooms set up. We were in bed after participants because there was tear down and cleanup after they would all leave. And the programs were already long for participants. They were 12 to 14 hour days for them. So they were 14 to 16 hour days for us. And I swear to God, I could have been like, give me one day off and then I want to come back. Like it was almost like, and some of them were camps, like big camps where you went and stayed on site. And I was quite literally, it was like summer camp when you were a kid. Like I didn't want to leave. Like these people became family in like 5 days. And I'm like, how do I do this for the whole rest of my life, but not as a volunteer and get paid for it?
Right.
So I kind of figured out where my passion lied, and I knew I wanted to be teaching and training and helping transform lives. And so the one thing I had done from start to finish in perfect completion was my book. And so this is where I'm like, okay, this is going to be my starting point.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be my step into service and helping people transform their mediocre businesses. Like you mentioned, instead of making, I know lots of entrepreneurs not even making $5,000.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Like a lot of entrepreneurs are broke, and then they're too ashamed to admit that they're broke. And it's not because they don't have skills and a passion. It's because they don't understand the basics of marketing and how to grow a business because they never went to business school.
Right.
And so now I have a program to help teach and train people how to actually take their business from struggling to successful, using all of the same strategies that I used to double my income in less than 12 months.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about the program, and then I want to dig a little deeper into a little bit more of the process, but talk a little bit about what your program looks like as you help people write a book and grow their business.
So that's a great question. And it's fairly simple. It's my 5-step signature program. It's 5 P's. So if anybody wants to write it down, they're really simple. You start with the planning. So plan is step 1. Step 2 is promote. So people start to think, well, how can I even talk about my book and promote it before it's even written? And I'm like, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to start promoting right away and getting the word out and getting the buzz. And it's all part of the strategy of having a really successful launch, becoming an Amazon bestseller. And it's about starting to talk about it and get that excitement going right away in phase 2. Phase 3 is the produce phase, my most least fun phase, which is the semantics and logistics of actually putting it together. And then the publish phase. So what are you doing are you uploading to Amazon? Are you using print books? Are you turning yours into an audio book? What are all those kind of steps that go into how you want your book to show up in the world? And then the most fun phase, which is step number 5, which is the profit phase. So that's the 5th P, and it's how to then use that book as a funnel and a lead magnet to draw your best and highest paying client right into your business like a magnet.
Yeah, I love that. I've written 5 or 6 books. One is an Amazon bestseller, so I get that. It never ceases to amaze me. Now I know how to, we know how to write a book. We know how to get it to bestseller status. But it never ceases to amaze me when I go somewhere and I'm meeting people and they notice because it's on my business card, oh, you wrote a book. First of all, people are blown away if you've written a book. It's not really that difficult to write a book especially when you have someone to teach you the 5 steps to do it. But it's amazing how much credibility that brings. Because most people, I don't know what the statistics are, most people will never write a book. And it will really differentiate you. Look what it did for you. In the sea of financial planners, it differentiated you. You doubled your book of business in a year. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Who wouldn't want that? And it's really, and it's not about a book. And so a lot of people that I sit down with think it's about the book and selling books. And it has nothing to do with selling books. I give mine away most of the time. Mm-hmm. It's about what you just said, that credibility piece. And that's one piece. I think I do things in 3s and 5s and little chunks of numbers, but with respect to marketing, I think a book does 5 things for your marketing. One, it's a great attraction tool. Mm-hmm. So it helps you attract a better client. So as an example, I'll use my Write and Grow Rich, which of course is my book for how to use a book to supersize your brand, your business, and your bank account. But the title and the subtitle were well crafted. So there's a process to this. It's not just willy-nilly figuring you're going to write a book because it's going to build you all the credibility. In that planning phase, which is one of the most important, it's who is it that you're trying to talk to? Who is it you're trying to attract into your business? And what is that perfect messaging for them? So if you would notice my Write and Grow Rich, you may ring some bells to you or some may develop some subconscious to you, right. But it was a play on words of the Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Sure. And I immediately thought of that when I initially saw that. I'm like, because Think and Grow Rich is one of the best books ever written. And I immediately thought of that. And that's, how clever is that? How brilliant is that?
And it was part of my strategy because I want to work with people who are interested and believe in working for themselves and helping improve themselves. So I will attract people in the personal development community with that title because it'll jump off the page to them.
Yeah.
And I was actually, it's funny, I was toying with two titles. I was Write and Grow Rich was one of my options, and Awaken the Author Within was one of the other ones.
Oh, yeah, I like that too.
Because of our great friend Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
But then I thought, Awaken the Author. An author is just a little too vague. I figured that might help, or that might attract poets and romance novelists and whatever. And that is not actually part of my target market either. Although I think it's fantastic if you want to write a book of poetry or your life story or an autobiography. But what I'm trying to do is help entrepreneurs use a book as a marketing tool.
Right.
So it's a very specific niche that I'm looking for. And Write and Grow Rich speaks way louder to that than Awaken the Author.
Absolutely does.
So
Absolutely.
There was the tipping scale on which title I chose.
Yeah.
So there's all of these little nuances that I teach in my program, which are really exciting. And then people get that juicy title and subtitle that just bounces off the page to their perfect client. So attraction is that first thing that it does. And then it differentiates you. We've talked about that. It absolutely is something that will help you rise to the top, stand out from the crowd, and break out of, my coach called it the sea of sameness. So when somebody doesn't know how to differentiate you from your competition, then you just don't stand out. So how do you stand out in a loud and noisy world right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're being bombarded with marketing messages like mad. So if you can do anything that kind of elevates your position in the marketplace, then a book is a great way to do that. 3 is visibility. So it's not just about attracting every client. It's about attracting the right client, like we talked about with titling. But it also opens doors to bigger visibility by being able to get on other people's platforms. So just like what we're doing today, Janet, like I'm getting access to the audience that listens to you.
Sure.
And when you're going to come on my show, you're going to get access to my audience. So it's about getting access to other people's audience by positioning yourself as a content expert. And creators like us, like we need content. So I'm always looking for great content from great experts, and somebody who's a published author jumps to the front of my line because I know they've got that credibility piece, that offer. They're going to provide great value to my audience, and I want to look good too to my audience. So I want to bring on great guests that are going to make me look good.
Right.
So, and a book really helps somebody to do that. Of course, it brings you your credibility and expertise, which is, to be able to position yourself as an authority. For some reason, people perceive authors to be authority figures. And it's not like when I was a financial advisor for 13 years. So clearly I knew my stuff, but somehow putting it into a book, packaging it up in a nice, pretty little thing made people want to do business with me more. It's a psychological thing that I can't explain, but most authors understand.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's absolutely, it's absolutely there for sure.
And then the 5th thing is it's got shelf life. It's a marketing resource and an asset for your business that you can use over and over and over and over again. Yeah. So,
well, and the thing I'll add to that is, and you can repurpose the content in that book over and over and over again. Webinars, video, blogs. So the book that I wrote.
Yes, yes.
The last one that I wrote, it's called Quit Your Day Job, 10 Steps to Financial Freedom. And it was a conglomeration of 2 years worth of blog posts. And I have a 10-step process, like you have your 5 steps, I have 10. And I took all my blog posts and I repurposed them into the 10 steps. And I used content that I already created. And then the content from that book I have used over and over and over again and expanded on it. I mean, a book is a great way. And it's not... I would say anybody listening out there who is at all an expert in their field has a book in them. And people like you 100%. Can draw that book out of them, right? Okay. I've got an idea. I have some intellectual property that is mine. Even if it's stuff that's already out there, but you're repurposing in your way, that's great food for a book. And people like you can drag that book out of somebody. So if you're even thinking about an inkling of wanting to do a book, or if what Kimberly has already said to you doesn't make you know that you need a book, you do need a book, and Kimberly can help you do that. That is for sure. So I want to change direction just a teeny bit.
You bet.
And talk about, and I ask this in every podcast interview that I do. I don't know any entrepreneur who has had a start rocket to success with no bumps. right? We've all have our challenges. And if you said to me, I haven't, Janet, I'd be like, I'm not really that interested in talking with you anymore, because because first you're lying to me, or if you haven't had any challenges and things that you have lived through and come out better on the other side and learned from, then I don't know if I can learn a lot from you. So talk a little bit about, and you don't have to go into super specifics, but talk about some of those bumps and those challenges that you've had, and how and clearly you've gone through one of the biggest of them all. But if it's that one or other ones along the way that you can share, and how you turned it into something positive that's helped you be the fabulous person that you are today.
Yes, any entrepreneur that says they haven't gone through challenges, you're right. They've either, I don't know, had some sort of a charmed life of whatever, but even the charmed ones go through failures. I think that the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful entrepreneurs is the ability to keep failing forward.
Yeah,
is kind of how I could describe that. So I spoke about my 13 years in finance as being, I quite literally called it my income roller coaster. I would go through months of amazing success, and then crappy months, shitty months, whatever months. I would go through times where I was so, quite literally, like so challenged that I would go and get a job in finance. So I did a lot of work in the automotive industry, as an example. So automotive, marine and RV. So I was one of the, many finance advisors that would be in the office, where if you came in to buy a car, I would help arrange the financing and do the warranty and sell you the insurance on your loan and all that kind of stuff. So the difference between doing it on my own as an advisor and doing it in a role where I was in a job was that at the job, I never had to do the prospecting. They had a sales department and a team to do that.
Yeah.
So I would go back and forth from working for someone else to really wanting to be an entrepreneur and work for myself, but then going and jumping out into that environment and going, oh, I suck again. Like I'm just, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to do the prospecting. Hence the pivot realization when the cancer happened and when the book happened, that I just was in the wrong business, the wrong industry. And that's okay, because I learned a lot of great skills through that industry. I learned how to, figure out a better way for my own finances and with respect to the finances of my business. And it led me down the path that I'm on right now. And even this new business has still had its struggles and challenges. In fact, because I was at one point working both in the finance sector and in this business, trying to get it up and off the ground, because I needed to replace my income, of course,
right,
before making the full and final leap, if you will, the full and final quantum leap into my business. And quite frankly, I made the leap not of my own decision and of my own accord. So what happened last August is I got kindly asked to leave my job that I had. That was my income. That I was dumping back into my business for the marketing and the branding and the website development and everything else. So as I was growing my business, I was using the income from my job to accomplish that. And there was a management changeover, and I was they wanted to bring in their own team. And quite honestly, it's one of those moments too where, in case you can't figure it out, I'm a bit of a strong and independent and powerful woman. And it's a very, it's a type of industry where they don't really like people that have big, strong opinions.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that was a big part of it. They didn't tell me the exact reason, but it doesn't matter. I got shown the door and I was like, oh crap. So here we go. So now I'm faced with the decision of, do I go and find another job while I continue to build my business? Or maybe this is another quantum leaping moment.
Pushing you out of the nest.
And right off the cliff, and hoping I'm going to grow wings on the way down, because I'm like, I need them now and I need them fast. And, the rest is history. I took another leap, and I feel like as an entrepreneur, almost all of the successes that I can attribute in my business and in my career and in my life have come with making a decision and then taking massive action following it in
Absolutely.
the direction of where I want to go without knowing what all the steps are going to be, but just knowing that and it's, again, I just got goosebumps like on my whole body.
Yeah.
That's how I always know when I'm in my zone of genius is, I really believe that decision making followed by action, and it doesn't need to be perfect action. I believe done is better than perfect.
Agreed.
You just need to start moving in the direction of your dreams and have that faith that the universe or spirit or God or whatever you want to call it is going to move for you and in your favor.
Yeah.
And every time I do that, magical things.
Well, and that's every client that I've ever had who has moved from that uncertainty or decision that may not have been there. Same thing happened to me. My job got eliminated, and they said, "Well, we can find you another one." And I thought, I should have quit a long time ago. So I had the kind of that same pushing me out of the nest thing. And so it's the decision to make it, whether it's completely voluntary or sometimes it's not completely voluntary. So it's that decision. And I really believe that it's the moving forward. And I love you say it doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to do it. Because oftentimes the direction that you move in isn't the direction you end up in. Right? And you need to be open to letting whatever it is, universe, God, others, kind of show you the way. Because I'm a bit of a strong woman as well. And I kind of like, I'm forging ahead and I'm going to do this. And sometimes I have to just say, step back. And you don't know the answer. Just let the universe provide it to you, whatever that looks like. So,
yeah, and making sure that you're open-minded to seeing what that looks like.
That's
because
right.
Sometimes it's the wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Like which maybe is not a great analogy, but sometimes, opportunity is dressed up in overalls, disguised as hard work.
Or shiny objects that distract you from, and I've seen this over and over with people who are in a decision-making space, regardless of whether that's the beginning of what business I should go into or whatever, and then they listen to the advice of others that have no business giving them advice, right? Kimberly, you should go and do such and such. And what do I know? And I'm not saying there aren't people to give advice, because that's what coaches and a lot of us have worked with, and I am a coach and do. But some people who are just completely unqualified to give us advice on what we should do, tell us what we should do.
Well, and that's a great point, because a really good coach or mentor is going to draw that answer out of you, not tell you what the answer is. Exactly. So that's step one. And step two is, you don't listen to anybody who's in a worse position than you are. That's my number one rule. Like, don't listen to broke people.
Yeah.
And whatever. It's not like, and I say that with a not to be mean, but with a good heart, because I've been in the broke position too. So it's not like I'm not coming from those spaces, but I really believe that success leaves clues. Like, and the person doesn't need to be where Tony Robbins is, but they need to be at least a couple of steps ahead of where you would like to be.
Right.
So that they can bring you along with them or show you the path that they took, so that you can, first of all, learn from their successes, but more importantly, learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
So you don't have to make those too.
Right. Well, and I have noticed, especially when I first left my job and I started to become an entrepreneur, and I had all these naysayers around me that were like, you can't do that and whatever. And I realized very quickly that was on them. That was their fear of wanting to do something different, but never having the guts to do anything different. So they didn't want to see me succeed, because to see me succeed as an entrepreneur just points out to them that they're going to be stuck in that rut forever. And so sometimes the people who give you advice or make comments to you, think about where they're coming from. Don't take it on face value, because a lot of times where they're coming from is they're messed up and they're just trying to rain on your parade. So I want to ask you this question. You talked about the Quantum Leap community, and whether it's that community or any community. I know what my community was that allowed me to go from W-2 to entrepreneur, surrounded by a community of entrepreneurs. Talk about the value and how important that was to you to help you make that leap from being the job, if you will, to being a successful entrepreneur.
It is critically important, and it's a perfect segue from us talking about the naysayers and the people that discourage you from growing and moving forward. And I quite frankly believe that people are operating at whatever level of awareness that they are at. So, you know, a lot of the times the naysayers are people that love us and that they want to. They're saying this in a way that they think is helping serve us and protect us. So I can't tell you how many times I heard, "Oh, Kim, why don't you just go out and get a real job?"
I've heard that too.
A real job. Okay. And I'm like, well, thank you for sharing. So I just don't, I don't share my excitement and my passion and my dreams and my goals with those people anymore, because they do not serve what I'm trying to accomplish. And so it's not that I don't love them or want to be their friend. They just aren't the community that I need to surround myself with to be able to thrive and grow. And so to the question that you asked, community is absolutely critical to success. That again, I'm so full of one-liners and cliches. It's crazy, but it's that whole idea of birds of a feather flock together. And you cannot soar with the eagles if you're hanging out in the duck pond. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
So figure out who you're surrounding yourself with. Like another cliche, you are the sum average of the 5 people that you hang around with most. And not just in income, but in health, in relationships, in everything.
Oh, that's great. That's
be very, very careful who you allow into your bubble.
Absolutely. That's the very, very wise words. Very, very wise words. So 2 things I want to say. First, what's next for Kim? And then second, talk about what your offer is, because I know you've got something to share with the people to learn a little bit more about how they can go from non-author to author to using that to grow their business.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So some exciting stuff that's in the works right now. So my program has actually morphed from not just a book program, but a marketing program with respect to how do you then take that beautiful asset you've just created for your business and use it to do things like this, to get on other people's platforms with respect to either right now, it's obviously a lot of it is virtual. So what kind of virtual stages you could get on to grow your audience, grow your listener base, grow your tribe, grow your community, if you will. And what does that look like? Is it podcasting, live streaming, private Facebook groups, virtual summits, virtual networking events, panel discussions? There are so many opportunities online right now, but for a lot of people, that's very overwhelming and they don't know where to start. So one of the things I do is help people through that. And it's actually now my newest program, which is coming to fruition very soon, but it's called in the series, really. So this one's going to be Speak and Grow Rich. So how to use speaking to grow your business. And in fact, I do have a 5-part series that I'm starting in a week or so. But anybody who gets in touch with me through the offer that I have at the end of the program can also ask me about that if they want to jump in and participate. It's totally free, but it shows people how to go out and do exactly what you and I are doing, which is growing our business through using and leveraging the power of other people's platforms and audiences.
Yeah, awesome.
And for those people who, may or may not, kind of like you, the whole, how do you start your own business if you're not quite there yet? So I do have also some training that revolves around kind of figuring out what that zone of genius might be for you that meshes with your passion and how to turn that into a course or a coaching program. Or a workshop or a seminar series, and then how you tie it all in together. Because really, you mentioned it earlier today, repurposing. Yeah. Repurposing content is something that not a lot of people think of unless they're in the content creation space. But your modules of your program become the chapters of your book. The chapters of your book become your blog posts or your podcast topics, right? Like it's all falls together. So if you're working with someone that's helping you put all of the pieces together at the same time, you're actually usually doing a lot less work. Yeah. And it ends up being a lot easier. Yeah. So you don't have to do the work 3 times. You're doing it once and then taking the bits out, and because you've done it with a plan and with a purpose and with a strategy in place. Yeah. So eventually it'll be my 3-part series: Write and Grow Rich, Speak and Grow Rich, and Train, Coach, or Teach and Grow Rich. I'm not really sure on that last final title yet, but awesome. It'll be a big series and designed to help somebody be able to take their business to another level, get to 6 figures and beyond, and stop the struggle and go from, instead of going, go from just surviving to thriving in your business and having a really amazing business that you love.
Yeah. And I will say that in my experience, I've been coaching for 15 years. Almost everybody, I would say everybody, but there might be an exception here and there, has a book in them.
Yeah.
They have, I mean, if you are the expert at all in your field, and I don't care if you're one of 10,000 financial planners, you have something that makes you unique.
Absolutely.
Different than anybody else. That it's in you. That intellectual property is in you. People like Kimberly can draw it out of you. I think everybody's got a book, and or more. Like I said, I have 5 that I've done over the years. So you've got your 3 series, and I'm sure it's not going to stop there. So, all right, Kimberly, I'm going to put a link to your offer and the other things you talked about in the show notes. So those will be below. Any final things? I mean, I know that I've kept you for almost an hour, so I apologize for that. I could probably talk to you for like forever. So let's do it again. Any final thoughts for our audience before we go?
Yeah, I think that, the biggest thing is just make that decision and move forward. If this is something that you think that would be a good fit for your business, make the decision, take the action. And you can get a really great start with my guide. So Janet, you're going to put it's a 10-step guide to planning and writing a book for your business. It is a 20-page downloadable workbook style. So it's really comprehensive. It really lays the foundation and the groundwork for you to get started. And quite literally, I personally think practically have a first draft of your manuscript when you're done working through the workbook. Awesome. So I'm happy to share that and get people on the path to creating that asset. And really I personally believe it's the fastest, the easiest, and the most affordable asset you can create for your business. People think it's hard and it takes a lot of time. It really doesn't when you're following a system. Yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more. Like I said, I've done it a number of times, and I wish I'd known you during those times, but I'm glad.
And now you're your own expert. You got 5. So way to go!
I'm just going to say it's so great to get to know you. Like I said, a good friend of ours, ours, connected us, and I'm so glad we did. I am looking forward to working with you and figuring out what that looks like, and having a long history of us connecting.
Yeah, we'll give the shout out. Thanks, Erlene.
It was Erlene. Thanks, Erlene. I think she was number 2 or 3 in the podcast. So her episodes up there. She's awesome. Yeah, as are you, Kimberly. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. You were amazing. And stay safe, stay strong, stay positive.
Thanks. I look forward to showing up in yours in a couple of weeks.
I look forward to having you.
It'll be fun. All right. Thanks, hon.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Breakaway Entrepreneur with Janet Fish. We really appreciate you. If you liked our show and want more, check us out at www.breakawayentrepreneur.com. If you ever have any questions you'd like answered, please email me at coach@breakawaybusinesscoaching.com. I'll answer your questions in an upcoming podcast. Subscribe and make sure you get our next episode as soon as it's available. If you love the show, please rate and review it, and be sure to share it with your friends. Make it a great day.